We formed a quorum. May I call to order the meeting of the education panel. Since the last meeting, we have not issued any formal information paper. Now we move on to the items for discussion at the next meeting. The administration has got two suggestions for us. First is vocational and professional education and training. That is, the administration would like to consult members on the development of VPAT, including applied learning in Hong Kong. I note that the education panel has also suggested that we expedite the mutual recognition system of qualifications framework with the mainland and to enhance vocational training. So I plan to invite members of the manpower panel to join this part of the meeting. And the second proposal is life planning education. We have discussed in this panel for a while, and the administration plans to brief us on the implementation of life planning education in schools. The administration is going to give us an update. Members, do you have other suggestions? Mr. Chu Kwok Keung. Thank you, Chair. I've always asked that we review the S1 place allocation system. If we do not do the review now, well, it will be another year before we can have an opportunity because of the drop in our student population. I believe this is the time to discuss it. All right, S1 and P1 places allocation. Dr. Dick Chi Yun. On our list of outstanding items for discussion, we have got items on UGC review. We in January asked that we discuss this because we've heard that there may be a review in UGC arrangements and there are concerns in the community. Can we expedite the discussion of this item? Yes, this has always been close to the heart of members of the panel. Any other suggestions, please? Ms. Lillian Kwok. Thank you, Chair. I fully agree with Dr. Tick because for UGC related issues, we first proposed a discussion of this item last year, and we have been waiting for a while, and there may be a reconstitution of the board of some UGC funded universities coming. So please give priority to this item. Thank you. Yes, I will discuss with the administration to see whether we can have a discussion of this item as early as possible. Non-panel members have also asked if we have ever considered discussing this item. So non-panel members are interested in the progress of the panel as well. So let's check with the administration to come up with a time for discussing this item. If need be, we can schedule a special meeting. So please allow the Secretariat and myself to discuss with the administration first, okay? If members have no more points on the item for discussion at our next meeting, then we go on into agenda proper. Support for cross-boundary students and the epidemic, amid the epidemic, and facilitation of the resumption of face-to-face classes. Members of the Welfare Services panel have been invited to join our discussion here. Please invite the administration to join us. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Choi. Members would like to speak. Will you please press the request to speak button? Now is the time to press the button. All right. Dr. Choi Yok-lin, Secretary for Education, will walk us through the paper from the administration. Over to you, Dr. Choi. Thank you. During the epidemic, the EDB deployed various measures to support schools for prevention and also fighting of the epidemic to ensure the health of our students. I will brief you on support for cross-boundary students, CBS, amid the epidemic, and also facilitation of the resumption of the face-to-face classes. Now, the EDB closely monitor the needs of our students during the epidemic and provide the necessary support for them. Now, during the epidemic, based on these learning needs of different stages of students, we urge schools to deploy flexible learning and teaching strategies so that students can retain or remain at home and continue to learn. And together with the Care and Community Fund, we provide funding for purchase of mobile computer devices, and we also set up a one-stop platform for parents and teachers to enhance the care of CBS. We provided learning support and social and psychological programs, and we also set up service points so that parents can have access to various resources and information, and then our students get to meet the counselors there. And then we try our best to arrange for students to come back to learn in Hong Kong. During June last year, when the situation was a bit better, we arranged for S3 to S5 CBS to come back to Hong Kong on a daily basis to attend school and to waive the 14-day quarantine requirements. And then on the 6th of February, when normal travel between Hong Kong and the mainland resumed, we discussed with schools well ahead to ensure the students can return to Hong Kong on an orderly basis to attend school. And starting from the 8th of February, all CBS have returned to Hong Kong in secondary schools. And then starting from the 22nd of February, all primary and KG students from across the border came back to Hong Kong for face-to-face classes. To this end, the administration has provided various support for students, including special arrangements for application of a Hong Kong re-entry permit. And they are also given facilitation services at clearance points so that they can come into Hong Kong speedily. And before resumption of face-to-face classes, we've worked with various departments to complete the applications for cross-boundary transport, including the 5-lane border control points at Long Ma Chong, Lo Wu, etc. We have provided school coaches management measures. We attach importance to the mental health of our students. Because of the epidemic, some students may develop stress as well as anxiety. So we have started the vibrancy at school so that our students can reintegrate into schools as soon as possible. We provided resource packs and also information for parents so that through various ways and means, schools can enhance the sense of belonging and security for CBS students. We ask schools to be accommodating and allow flexible arrangement. And because of the abolition of the face mask requirement. Well, starting from January, we have provided guidelines for parents when it comes to the wearing of masks at schools, so that they can be prepared well ahead to embrace this new life in normalcy. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions from members. 6 members have pressed the request to speak button. Each will have 4 minutes. I read out the names. All right. Dr. Chow Meng Kwong, Mr. Chen Chen Ying, Mr. Tang Fei, Mr. Chu Kwok Keung, Dr. Tik Ji Yun, myself, and Mr. Lilian Kwok. Dr. Chow Meng Kwong. Thank you. Good morning, Secretary. Under the leadership of the Secretary, CBS have been welcomed back to school after 3 years of class suspension, or after the absence from Hong Kong, and the arrangements include transport and a number of issues. And I understand from the Secretary that 15,760 CBS have come back to Hong Kong, and I think these students will be future masters in Hong Kong under one country, two system, and they can become an important source of human resources. So for the districts near the boundary, including Yuen Long, Tai Po, Tuen Mun, and the north, I hope you can promote this the needs of these students to these districts. These students have not been in Hong Kong for 3 years, and now they may become rather introverted. And I'd like to know whether social workers in schools can take care of the special education needs of CBS. Schools should be more proactive. Thirdly, it's difficult to find coaches. Contracts signed a few years back may no longer be valid. Some coach operations have closed down because of the high fuel costs and also because of the epidemic. So it is even more difficult to find cross-boundary coaches. So will allowances be given or subsidies be given to schools or coaches so the students will not be deterred from returning to school in Hong Kong because of high transportation costs? Dr. Choi. Thank you. Before the epidemic, we had about 21,000 CBS. And on the 22nd of February, when a full class or resumption for CBS as well resumed, the return from schools back then was 15,000 odd. Probably some had already returned to Hong Kong during the epidemic and have been attending school in Hong Kong and living here. Some might be in boarding schools or may be studying in GBA schools, and they may only return in the new academic year. So we will continue to provide support to parents and maintain communication with the education sector to see how we can make it easier for CBS to come to Hong Kong so that they can take advantage of the quality education system in Hong Kong. It's true that CBS students haven't been in Hong Kong for the past 3 years. They only attended online classes at home. And so on the first day they returned to Hong Kong, we encouraged schools. We discussed with school principals in advance. We asked them to organize welcome activities and guidance teachers and social workers and senior form students should work together to form a warm community for CBS. We will continue to encourage schools to show their care for CBS. As for school coaches, we will keep in view the situation when classes first resumed. Because of the smaller number of students involved, it was difficult to find cross-boundary school coaches, but the situation has improved and the operation is smooth now. We will continue to discuss with Association of School Principals in different districts to understand the situation.
我都好高興教育局咧。
Next, Mr. Chan Chen-ying. Thank you, Madam Chair. I thank the Education Bureau for coming up with different measures to support CBS cross-boundary students. But after a while, we need to take stock of the situation and to see if they are effective. Looking forward, we need to see if we need to roll out enhanced measures. My questions are on two fronts. In paragraph 4 and 5, we will, through the Community Care Fund and the Quality Education Fund, sponsor CBS to purchase computer as well as other accessories. What is the reception? Has the Education Bureau contacted them about the response? What actual services were procured to support CBS? Can the Bureau supplement? In paragraph 6, from May 2021 to February 2023, in Futian, Nanshan, some courses were provided. The quota was 10,000, but only 7,000 students enrolled in the courses. Were they not popular? What is the reason? There are also different points to provide different experiences. But then there is no information about the level of participation. Can the Education Bureau show more information so that we will know these supporting measures are well received or there are actually deficiencies, so if need be, we can take stock of the situation in the future? Thank you, Mr. Chen. The first question on different supporting measures, such as the purchase of tablets or internet connection subsidies. Basically, all students were provided with these measures. There were initially problems with computers, but then at a later stage, we already ironed out the problem. Regarding internet subsidy, if they had difficulty accessing the internet, there is a subsidy available at 1,700 or so. Tablet computers stand at 4,700 or so. A total of 5,000 cross-boundary families benefited from these measures. While students were having online classes, their learning progress was not affected. On the quota, that is a couple of courses in Shenzhen, in the midst of the epidemic, we thank different organizations and government units for their support. There were 20,000 or so students crossing the boundary to go to school. But why was the quota 10,000? Well, that is because we needed to look for qualified teachers as well as suitable places. As soon as the epidemic subsided, then they would have to cease operation at once. They were, however, willing to make investment and provided support. The 20,000 odd quota was not scattered throughout different places, with the most being in Shenzhen, Luohu, Futian, Nanshan are the major places. If there were too few students, then we would not have been able to form different groups. We want to benefit students. In the mainland, there were different measures. Some students were confined to smaller districts. For the integrated service points, we wanted to provide a place for families such as parents and children to come together. We also aimed at providing recreational facilities. While they couldn't come to Hong Kong to meet with their students, their classmates, there were still opportunities for them to mingle with one another. The tendency was a short term. It was a short term one. Different NGOs allowed us to add integrated service points in their offices. After a trial period, the response was rather lukewarm, so we didn't continue with it in the second phase. Next, Mr. Tang Fei. Thank you, Madam Chair. In paragraph 10 of the papers, there were some 15,760 CBS secondary schools and primary school students. Some students had already graduated, so the figure now stands at 15,000 or so, with a declining birth rate. Basically, that is the doubly non-pregnant students and singly non-permanent students. Do we actually encourage Hong Kong students to go north to the Greater Bay Area to study, or are we going to encourage those living in the mainland to come to Hong Kong to solve the problem of a shortage of students in Hong Kong? We understand that the HKEAA will set up examination centers in mainland China. So we have measures to help different types of students, such as doubly or singly non-permanent students. Do we encourage mainland students to come to Hong Kong, or are we going to encourage Hong Kong students to go north to the mainland, that is the Greater Bay Area, to study? Well, the original intention of our policy is that we put the interests of students first. If students live near BCPs and they find the Hong Kong learning environment better, well, we definitely welcome them. If students live far away from the Greater Bay Area, and if they think that the Hong Kong environment will be beneficial for them, then we also have supporting measures to help Hong Kong children living in the GBA. So we will not accord priority to assigning different students to which schools. As the learning of students is close to our heart, it is our first priority. For the zero quota for doubly non-permanent students in 2013, for the 15,760 or so, 9,000 are secondary school students, 6,000 are primary school students, and 300 or so are kindergarten students. Some border control points are actually very convenient, and I can see an uneven distribution of students. In the Northern District or in Yuen Long, they are kind of more concentrated in Yuen Long, Tai Po, Tuen Mun, etc. So it is all down to the choice of parents and students. We do not have, in our policy, we do not have any preference as to where they should go to study. Next, Mr. Chu Kwok-kang. Thank you, Madam Chair. We should have discussed issue long ago. We have already resumed to normality, and we are well past the golden opportunity to help CBS. We need to take stock of the situation, and there are actually there is a lot of room for improvement. The scale is small, the effect is limited, but then we can still render assistance. I hope that the Bureau will be encouraged to provide assistance to CBS on supporting frontline staff members. CBS could not come to Hong Kong to study. In the early phase, schools needed to transport some textbooks back to the mainland. There were hiccups though. With the letter, it wouldn't be a problem, but at that time the Bureau actually rejected it for holding the same examination in different places. Some schools had no idea, but the Bureau did not render assistance. Some teachers applied to teach in mainland China. Some consulted the Education Bureau, but then there was no certain information. In the end, there was still no reply. Will there be extra support provided to CBS students? They may be lagging behind in their study progress. There are a lot of different comments. Some students choose to leave the Hong Kong learning environment to further their studies. Does the Bureau understand this? Does the Bureau know this? Did you take stock of what I said? Dr. Choi. During the epidemic, on sending textbook to mainland, indeed, in the process, we tried different methods. We tried sending the textbooks in bulk. We coordinated with different mainland units, but still, the volume was very large. And it also had to do with clearance procedures in relation to printed items. It was not all that simple. A letter from the Education Bureau will not serve to provide exemption. We cannot override the law or rule of the mainland customs, but we also understand the situation facing the students, so we try to send the textbooks through different means. We also tried our best to coordinate, but we still cannot override the law. For holding examinations in different places, through sister schools, or through different schools in the locality, holding different examinations in the same place at the same time will not be flexible enough. It is not the case that our colleagues did not want to help. For teachers going north, going to the mainland to teach, apart from our teachers, which has to do with labor ordinance, labor law, or teacher qualifications. We understand that there have been flexible deployments in schools. The Bureau is well aware of that, and we are already providing assistance as far as we can. As Mr. Ju said, we will take stock of the situation, and if we identify any room for improvement, we are more than willing to put our heads together to see how we can provide assistance as far as we can. Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. Tik Chi-yun. Thank you, Chair. I agree with what Mr. Chu said. The critical time for adaptation of CBS to campus life is already over, but there are still areas that warrant our attention. Now, for learning, I am not too concerned because schools will attend to that, but for the mental well-being, social and family issues. Now, when they first came to Hong Kong, they were not familiar with Hong Kong, and that took time for them. It takes time for them to familiarize themselves with Hong Kong. I have a suggestion. In primary schools, we have one social worker per school. For adjustment problems and social adaptation, it's important that we provide counseling. The EDB is more flexible in deploying its resources given the drop in student population. Will you consider setting up this program? Apart from one social work per school, can we have one counselor per school as well? Because we have well-trained counselors available, can we put in place a one-year program for one additional counselor to be stationed in each school to enhance support and counseling for students? And then many NGOs do support schools and collaborate with them. Can we mobilize local NGOs in running extracurricular activities and support services and parent education? Schools may find such activities a bit heavy for them to organize, but we can find support from NGOs. Through their network, they can also provide parent activities across the boundary. NGOs have connections in the mainland as well, so that both in Hong Kong and in the mainland, we can have parental education. I don't think it is that difficult to deploy your resources. Will you have medium and long-term plans and help students to overcome the adaptation issues? Dr. Choi, during the epidemic, even local students required social and emotional support and counseling. We do note that in order to alleviate the negative impact of the epidemic, we have been in very close liaison with schools. We reminded schools to take note of that and mobilize resources to help students. We do not only do it now, we did it during the epidemic. There should be various ways of networking, including telephone calls and other forms of communication. Where need be, we can provide support. We have been doing it before, during, and after the epidemic. We cannot rely on one single person to provide support for students. We have a whole school all-in mode. Everyone should care for their neighbors. So we ensure that all students or all parents, all teachers are able to do that. We have the Resuming Vibrant Life at School program. We have provided resource packs, parents' guide, and videos, and so that everyone can lend a helping hand to someone who needs it. Professionals are important in schools, and therefore we have the necessary supporting resources apart from social workers, educational psychologists. We have guidance personnel, and our educators play a very important role. We will continue to help students in various aspects in the future. Mobilizing NGOs. NGOs are very proactive They have been in liaison with us. They have communicated the latest development in supporting mental health of students. We cooperate with them in various projects. We are grateful to NGOs. In the past few years, they've been very proactive. They have rendered assistance to us and support to parents as well. I want to thank the NGOs, and I hope this mode of cooperation can continue. Thank you. Now is my time. Dr. Choi, in para 10, it is mentioned that we have a total of 15,760 CPS in primary schools, secondary schools, primary schools, and KGs, and the respective numbers were 9,395, 6,000 odd, and 360 odd, respectively. So every day they have to travel back to the mainland. Given that our population is dropping, we want to nurture our own talents, and these groups should be our future source of manpower as well. They have to travel to and from the mainland on a daily basis. How can we help them to develop a sense of the belonging and affection for Hong Kong? I understand that schools may have lunch with CPS. I think this is a rather infrequent arrangement. Other non-panel members have put this question to the education panel. Given the fall in population, do we want these students to attend school in GBA or remain in Hong Kong? Speaking for myself, I want them to be educated here and nurture them into our own talents. We have followed the CS delegation to visit GBA. In the coming 1 to 2 decades, we must integrate seamlessly with cities of GBA, but that doesn't mean that we should only send our young people to across the boundary to start their own business. It should be a two-way thing. I have taught mainland students in City U. They are of very high caliber. They study law here. They want to work in Hong Kong after graduation, and we must start from young kids, from KGs. Do we have long-term plans? We have many vacant school premises, and it's already an inevitable trend that schools will close down. Schools may have to amalgamate. Some will have to close down because of the current situation. Can we provide boarding places in some of our vacant school premises? This is particularly useful for DSE CPS. Well, when I was a kid, I could do my revision while on a ferry or on bus. Can we provide boarding places for senior secondary CPS? Some schools provide boarding arrangement for S5, S6 students that can go a long way in their personal development. Now we can of course start with the North District, and we have also got quality schools on Hong Kong Island. If boarding places are available, then we don't have to confine the arrangement to districts near the boundary, so that this is a way to retain talents. Now for counselors, we have strong universities in Hong Kong. Some study social work across the boundary. They should be talents we attract and recruit to come back to Hong Kong. Now, there are such as social workers who know the mainland well and they are conversant in Putonghua, perhaps they can be a very useful resource. Dr. Choi, of course, we want to build up the value system of CBS. We hope that they can have a sense of belonging and affection for Hong Kong. Even though CBS have to return to the mainland after school, they still have a sense of belonging and affection here. I've asked CBS students whom they missed most during the epidemic. They told me that they missed teachers and schoolmates most. Hong Kong is also part of the GBA development. As transportation improves with the flow of talent, perhaps some of our people will stay in Hong Kong for part of the time and then stay in the mainland as well. So we do not just focus on education. When it comes to talent retention, we have various supporting measures. We will do our best on the education front. As regards whether we can turn vacant school premises to boarding places, it depends on future investment. As I mentioned, since we have we have cut the quota for students or for children whose parents are non-permanent residents of Hong Kong. Well, the cohort has dropped from 4,000 to 300. So you see, we have 9,000 odd secondary CBS students, but only 360 something KG students. So maybe after our conversion, there is 0 student eligible because conversion of school premises takes a few years. So we have seen a very obvious drop in the number of students from this group. So we need policy to go faster before we employ such a measure. And as for interflow of social workers, we are now exploring cooperation and mutual recognition of programs and qualifications. We will take into account such training as well. Let me supplement. Since not too many members are waiting to ask questions, I will allow one more. Can we carry out a pilot scheme? You can have 1 or 2 boarding schools. We may be able to then attract 100 students, CBS of very high caliber. Singapore is a successful example. I hope you can discuss with department in the government responsible for talent retention. We need counselors who have a good understanding of the mainland culture and Western culture, because even in universities we have seen student suicides, and we have to take into account this.
Ms. Lillian Kok. Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I thank the Education Bureau. In the midst of the epidemic, all of us work very hard. The situation was not easy. A lot of members are worried about the support for the psychological well-being of students. Different members have stated their demands. We are already working on the qualifications recognition, qualifications framework, etc. I have to restate. I'm following up on 5 cases mostly primary school students. So it is important that we provide counseling or services to primary school students. We need to provide tailor-made counseling to them. Right now, the frequency is once per month. Maybe their family members passes away and they couldn't, and the student doesn't even cry. I hope that the administration will face the situation squarely. There is only one school-based social worker. Will we add one more social worker? Secondly, on adapting to school life after the epidemic, some students may find it easier to get used to or to adapt to school life. Some students are weak in adapting to the district or the community. Will we have courses introducing them to the local community? In the future, this year we have 10,000 less CBS. Some may want to come back in the next academic year. I'd like to know whether the Bureau will take stock of the situation. What are the relevant figures if you have already done so? We can get prepared. For example, how many students will come back? Then schools or the Education Bureau will also be better prepared. On technology, during the epidemic, we finally pressed ahead BYOB, which had not been put in place for the past 15 years. So how can we give full place to this advantage so that we can better utilize the network to provide learning support? I'd like to hear from the Bureau. What plan do you have in the future? Secretary. Thank you, Madam Chair. One social worker or two social workers per school. We have been implementing these for some 2 years. We will, in a timely manner, review the situation to see how we can provide more targeted support. Next, about difficulty adapting to school life, whether in primary schools or in kindergartens. We have an all-round learning fund for primary schools. There are different activities helping students to adapt to school life or the community. On supporting CBS, as schools reported, they will hold guided tours to walk students through the surrounding environment and the community near their schools, or visiting different places in Hong Kong. We also put in place a subsidy for kindergartens, whereby they can go with their children to the community to take learning out of the classroom. Member also asked about the figure of students returning to schools. We have sufficient quotas. No matter how many CBS are going to come back to Hong Kong, we also have sufficient quota. We collect information or figures from schools. It is difficult for us to distribute questionnaires in the GBA. Mainly, we collect information and figures from schools, but we have already set aside sufficient quotas to accommodate CBS, especially when we consider districts with a quota surplus. We are already looking into the situation. On to the application of technology, we have been encouraging schools to do so. In the QEF, we have set aside $2 billion to encourage schools to press ahead with this initiative. We hope that schools will expedite the implementation. For IoT or AI development, we will see whether the school's facilities can be enhanced, and we will conduct reviews in a timely manner. I'd like the Education Bureau to provide us with more information. For CBS, who previously went to Hong Kong to study, but then they are now staying in mainland for studying, can we have the figures or the distribution among different districts? Can you share with the following figures? Well, I have figures. For example, in Huang Dai Xin, 18 from secondary school students, 83 for primary schools in Kwai Tsing, 12 secondary schools, and 131 primary school students. For Tuen Mun, 1,563 and 543 in Yuen Long, 1,547 for secondary school students, and 1,002 primary school students, 6 from kindergarten. In the Northern District, 4,341 secondary school students, 3,024 primary schools, and 348 kindergarten students. In Tai Po, 1,520 secondary school students and 897 primary school students and 7 from kindergarten. In Sha Tin, 263 secondary school students and 91 primary school students. In Tong Chong, 131 secondary school students, 230 primary school students, and 2 from kindergartens. The distribution is not even. We are now drawing to the end. Odd land BCPs are open, so we have a grasp of the distribution. Any follow-up? Can you send the figures to us in the written reply for our future reference? Yes, thank you. 3 more members have requested to speak, and I'll draw a line. 3 more members to speak. Next, Professor William Wong. Draw a line, do you mean speaking less? No, I mean 3 more members will speak. Good morning, Dr. Choi. Thank you for your work over the past few years. The innovation and technology has been saying that they have to troll for talents. Education is of the utmost importance, as we need to do it when the talents are young. In the epidemic, there are new normals. So we need to take stock of the situation in the past 3 years to see how we can map up our future post-pandemically. At university, in the past few years, more university students are residing in Shenzhen, and they cross the boundary to come to Hong Kong to study, especially for CUHK. This is we need to think how we can attract more mainland students to come to Hong Kong to study. In the past, UGC has set a standard. We cannot accept more than 20% of non-local students. We couldn't meet this target because there was a shortage of boarding places. Now, the barrier has been removed. They can directly cross the border to come to Hong Kong. So on trolling for talents, can the Education Bureau do more to attract mainland students to come to Hong Kong to study? After all, we already have a target of 20%, or we can even drive up this figure. We can attract more talents to come to Hong Kong. Given that many youngsters and many families in Hong Kong have already emigrated, they have left Hong Kong. Can the UGC encourage more mainland students to come to Hong Kong, especially those living in the GBA? The second question. The Secretary also mentioned whether students should study in the GBA or study in Hong Kong. The secretary said that we should put students first. If they live far away, then they should study in mainland China. Well, we shouldn't just consider students in the GBA. A lot of them have gone to Beijing or Shanghai. So how can we take care of those living far away or living further away? For the DSE, it is now being widely accepted in mainland China. We mentioned the same examination in different places. In Shanghai or Beijing, do all the students need to come to the GBA examination center? Will we consider providing more convenience? That is, should we have more examination centers? Thank you, Madam Chair. Secretary, on how to attract more mainland students to come to Hong Kong, Professor William Wong mentioned that boarding places are not a problem anymore. We have Boarding Places Development Fund, hence a faster progress. The development of the GBA also eased pressure on boarding places. On how to attract mainland students to come to Hong Kong, all along we have been welcoming mainland students. And a diversity of cultures. Hong Kong is an international city with a diversity of cultures. We encourage institutions to make full use of the 20% to admit non-local students. Besides the GBA, in other districts, for Hong Kong students in other provinces or municipalities, for school quality, teacher quality, they also need to meet the standard and pass the tests of Hong Kong before they can take part in the holding of DSE examination. Only after meeting these requirements can they send the students to Hong Kong to take DSE. Otherwise, students will have to be self-studying candidates. Besides Hong Kong education policies, mainland education policies are also involved. We need to coordinate with different mainland counterparts. We also need to have regard to the technical feasibility of holding DSE examinations. If we need to hold examinations at exactly the same time, then security, transportation are also factors at play. In the GBA, we thank with the full support of the education unit from the Guangdong province. We can now explore the possibility of holding DSE examinations in the GBA. We will review the situation in other places after we have done with the Guangdong province situation. Otherwise, the cost will be very high. Thank you, Secretary. I hope that you will seriously consider Shanghai, Beijing, etc. There are indeed a lot of Hong Kong students studying in these places. The Secretary has already heard you, I believe. Next, Ms. Chan Ho Yen.
Thank you, Chair. I thank the Secretary for addressing the questions in relation to emotional support for students. Now, I am a parent myself. I've got a kid. I've got two kids in secondary and primary schools, respectively. Now, I understand that our social workers can only see a case once a month, but can you focus on certain classes such as P3 and P4? Now, they have to, for CBS, when they first arrive in Hong Kong, they're already in S3, and some of the CBS did not attend class in Hong Kong for S1 to S3, and by the time they arrive in Hong Kong, they're already an S4 student. So they need support, in particular during the puberty stage. So can you pay more attention to S3, S4, and P3, P4 students? They have to go through growing pains, and they also have to adapt to campus life in Hong Kong. Some schools in Hong Kong have done very well. It's good that if they have mentors in school, some schools have got so-called big sisters or big brother schemes, and S6 and P6 student looking after a P1 student. It is similar to mentorship scheme. It can help them to adapt to face-to-face classes. Paras 14 and 15, you mentioned professionals such as social workers and educational psychologists. Students mature fast nowadays. They can, if you look at their chats on computer with friends and also the videos they see, then you have a better understanding of them. Perhaps it is better if they have senior students in the same school looking after them. Dr. Choi. First, whether we can focus our resources at certain forms of certain levels. It's true that the transition from KG to primary and from primary to secondary, we do know that there is a big gap from P3 to P4. And also the transition from S3 to S4 again, there is a big change involved, and schools will make the necessary adjustment. And as for services of social workers, we note the message from Ms. Chen. Regarding peer support, we encourage schools to be caring campuses. Big Brother, Big Sister scheme is one example, and we have also got gatekeeper training for students. There are also care ambassadors in schools. Different schools have good experience to share when it comes to the development of a caring campus. Thank you. Speakers off mic. Thank you. Chair, I'd like to ask the administration. Now we have resumed face-to-face lessons for CBS for 3 months. According to the paper, most of them have returned. Still, there are some who haven't. I'd like to know the support to them. Is it very different from support rendered during the epidemic? Does the Bureau have any policy in helping CBS that cannot return to Hong Kong for face-to-face classes? We very much want them to attend regular school, but if they have difficulties, are there targeted measures to help the very few students who cannot come back? What will be, what are the needs they face given that the epidemic is over? Secretary, for the very few CBS who have yet to return to Hong Kong for classes, we require schools to keep in contact with them because it's been a few months after normal travel has resumed. And according to our understanding, some of them are studying in schools in the mainland. Now, if they want to keep their places here, and yet they haven't returned after 3 months. That is rather unreasonable and undesirable. According to schools, most of them are attending school in the mainland. Parents are saying that they want their children to complete this academic year before they return in the next. Still, we ask schools to keep in contact with students. First, schools must be informed of the current progress, and we cannot allow shadow students. We cannot allow this loophole. Thirdly, we have to consider the workload and the capacity of schools. If 3 months after resumption of face-to-face classes, we still require teachers to provide online lessons, that is too much of a burden on teachers. As said, teachers or schools are doing a lot to provide emotional support and counseling for CBS students. And if we demand schools to continue to cater for these students, that will be unreasonable burden on teachers. Having said so, we have not heard of many special cases in which students cannot come back after 3 months. Most of them are attending school in the mainland. Mr. Ng. Thank you. I have no more questions. All right, that ends the discussion of this item, and we'll move on to the next. That is a 12-classroom special school at Oi Kwan Road, Wan Chai.
嘅建議，所以咧我就邀請
This is a public works proposal, and I have invited all members of the council to take part in this meeting. So if you wish to ask questions, please press the request to speak button. And let's invite Mr. Jeff Z, Undersecretary for Education, to come into the room. Yes, Mr. Z? Beg your pardon. May I remind members, in accordance with ROP 83A, if members have a direct or indirect pecuniary interest in this item, please declare the nature of the interest before you speak. Thank you. Good morning, Chair. The government plans to construct a special school at the former school site of Wan Chai School at Oi Kwan Road for reprovisioning Hong Chi Line's Morning Hill School in the same district. The HCLMS was established in 1967. It has been in the current site for over 50 years. Currently, the size is 1,200 meters, and there is no room for further expansion of the school, and the facilities are old. Because this is the only school for the mild mental retarded students on Hong Kong Island, we believe we should reprovision this school to cater for the future needs. Now, 120 school places are available. After reprovisioning, depending on demand, the school can expand to provide 180 school places to ensure that students with special needs can be given the best support. Wan Chai School is the only education site where reprovisioning can take place. It has a size of 2,000 square meters. Nearby, there are community facilities as well as a swimming pool. Because there is a great demand for facilities nearby, we have gone for the single-site multi-users mode. There will be a community hall with about 100 square meters for community activities. The school has promised that where possible, the site can be made available to the local community for community and educational facilities. And then Hong Chi School nearby can also, the Jockey Club Hong Chi School for children with moderate intellectual disability can also use the facilities. Now, the school will have 7 stories, much taller than its ordinary counterparts with only 3 stories. And the new school will have a whole speech therapy rooms, occupational therapy rooms, and social workers rooms, etc. We will first have to demolish Wan Chai School, which is over 50 years old. We have done the preliminary environment audit. We will require the contractor to control noise, dust, and carry out mitigation measures to minimize environmental impacts on the environment. We expect that the impact on the environment will be limited. About 60% of the students attend school by coaches. And then there will be laybys and car parks within the school. There is no need for coaches to use lay-by parking. And nearby there is an MTR station as well as bus stations. In 2020, we consulted the Wan Chai District Council. And then on the 17th of January, after we have completed the preliminary planning, we consulted the development planning committee of the Wan Chai district. With the support of this panel, we plan to submit a funding application to the finance committee within this year. When funding approval is obtained, we will start the construction of the new school, and it will take about 4 years. Thank you. Each member will have 3 minutes. Professor Lau Chi-Pang, Dr. Chow Man Kwong, Dr. Dick Chi-Yuen, Reverend Canon Peter Kuhn, Mr. Chen Chen-ying, Mr. Lam Chun-sing, Ms. Lillian Kwok, and Mr. Ju Kwok-keung. Each will have 3 minutes. I'll be rather tight with time management because we still have one more item to go through. Professor Lau Chi-Pang, I support the re-provisioning plan. However, there are details I'd like to single out for discussion. The current site has got an old school, and the size is 2,000 square meters. The footprint is rather small, and therefore, with the assistance of Public Works Department, we have got this plan. But then there will only be 12 classrooms. Are we being too miserly? Because on Hong Kong Island, we still have a great demand for places in a school for the with students with mild intellectual disability. And I understand that the school is willing to share school facilities with the community. Now, there will be a multi-purpose area and also a covered playground and basketball court. According to my experience in the town planning board, from time to time we allow minor relaxation of plot ratio. Space is tight in this school. Now, it's already 7 stories tall. If you add one more story, still it is a very relatively short building compared with the skyscrapers nearby. So can we further relax the plot ratio as well as height restriction? Can we allow a 8 or 9 story building? Then we can have up to 16 or even 20 classrooms. It's just a suggestion for the administration. Thank you.
And the Secretary. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Professor Lau. There are indeed objective limitations, such as the footprint of the premises. The site is only 2,000 square meters or so. This is indeed smaller than other campuses for children with mild intellectual disability. So we thank the ASD for their efforts. We built as high as possible, 7 stories high. It is higher than other similar campuses, which are 3-story or 4-story high. The basketball court of the new campus will be placed on the rooftop in order to make full use of the site. We also need to tell members, because of the fire safety regulations, campuses cannot be taller than 24 meters. Right now, the height is already the highest within the restriction of the education ordinance. We will make sure safety regulations are complied with, and we will also monitor all the details of construction. As I said in the opening remarks, we have already made full use of the plot ratio. We have already made the most of it. Land resources are scarce on Hong Kong Island, and it is difficult to look for another place to reprovision Hong Chi Lions Morning Hill School. I also went to the existing campus on Blue Pool Road. That is not an ideal situation right now. There are no school halls, there are no social workers' rooms, and books have to be placed inside other rooms. We hope that after the school is reprovisioned, the teaching and learning environment of the school can be enhanced. As Professor Lau spoke, well, as it was the first question and answer, I allowed Undersecretary to answer in greater detail. We need to be strict with time. Otherwise, we will overrun. I hope that the Undersecretary will be more direct, so that he will not have to repeat the same point. Professor Lau's question is very simple. That is whether we can increase the plot ratio. Then Undersecretary can state the difficulty and the answer, no. Then we can save more time, and members should refrain from repeating the same questions. Next, Dr. Chow Man Kong. I am a vice president of the Education University. We can see an increase in the number of students. I agree with increasing the plot ratio. Even if this is not possible, can we do the reprovisioning at a later stage? Right now, you are proposing 12 classrooms. That is one form in one single classroom. This number is too small. The campus will be 7-story high. The basketball court will be placed on the rooftop. We need to protect the safety of students. I do not want it to look like the matchbox school premises like we had when we were young. In part-time or hybrid DSE, there is indeed a shortage of teachers in this specialty, just like hospitals. When we have a hospital, we do not have enough doctors. So on teacher training, can you also enhance teacher training so that the supply can be increased as a result. Thank you, Dr. Chow, for your support. Thank you for your questions. As a reply to Professor Lau, we have already racked our brains. After all, according to the existing law, how we can make the most of the site, we have already thought about it and we have already done so. When it comes to having more classrooms, it will be quite difficult in terms of design. We are in close liaison with the school on the supply and demand of quotas. We are monitoring the situation. After this school is built, largely, we will be able to meet the demand. For height restrictions or for the height of the campus, we will definitely protect the safety of students. For teacher qualification, apart from the education university, we will also hold special courses or programs for teachers on the recruitment of teachers or pre-job training. We are in liaison with the education university to make sure that we have enough supply. Dr. Tixi Yun. Thank you, Madam Chair. Building height is subject to fire safety regulation 24 meters. The government really needs to take a look at these restrictions. As an ordinary citizen, there are high rises nearby, so why do schools have to be subject to a shorter or smaller height restriction? Sites in Wan Chai are scarce. We shouldn't impose too many restrictions on ourselves. Can we make breakthroughs with technologies? I support this proposal all out. Schools nurture these talents. Children with mild intellectual disability are also talents. But then they lack a promising future. They cannot see a promising future. The figure now is 1.47%. We need to encourage the government to take on more people. Isn't this real education? Can the government lead by example? Can we think of more methods so that we can provide a better environment to train teachers so that we have more talents? If they have a promising future, then they can contribute to society. That is an opportunity for them. I think that this is actually a failure, and I think the government should take stock of the situation and review the situation. Thank you, Under Secretary. Thank you, Madam Chair. On fire safety regulation, I have already explained. We cannot compare special schools with other buildings in the vicinity. We cannot draw a direct comparison. For SEN students, they may be living, for ordinary students, they are living in high rises, but then for SEN students, they are studying in this school. In case of accident, fire engines may not be able to access the relevant floor. We have to protect the safety of students. That is our top priority. I understand that members thought of other social welfare facilities on existing law. We need to comply with the regulations. Indeed, we cannot have a building too high for students to have classes. On the future, in panel on education, we discussed special schools. Dr. Tick also mentioned this suggestion, and we will also review the suggestion at a later stage. The SWD has mentioned some suggestions, and we will also follow up accordingly. Next, Reverend Peter Kuhn. Thank you, Madam Chair. On the reprovisioning of a special school, I believe no member will be against it. There is a decline in population. In the future, it may take 3 to 4 years to build a school on Hong Kong Island. Is it possible that we have similar schools that need to be combined or facing closure? Can we use other campuses so that the public will not be under the misconception that will not be they will not think that some schools have to be closed and some schools will have to be reprovisioned. Indeed, there is a structural decline in student population. Meanwhile, however, on identifying students with SENs, we can see that the ratio of SEN students is increasing. So from 120 to 180, we anticipate that schools for children with mild intellectual disability may see an increase, of course, a couple of years later. When the students are going to be P1 several years later, we cannot identify these portion of students right now. Special schools are different from mainstream schools. There are 36 school nets across the territory, and that is different. This school will admit students in Wan Chai North Point. For other vacant campuses, for other public mainstream schools, when there is a vacant campus, as usual, we will assess whether that campus is suitable for other education needs or other education purposes. I have to say, the design of special schools differs from mainstream schools. For classrooms, for special rooms, they are different. So it is not that easy to convert the classrooms or other rooms. Reverend Peter Kuhn, well, he hasn't taken my last question. Well, as I said, they may answer the part that is closest to your heart. Members ask very good questions. Mr. Chen Ying, on increasing quota for special schools and improving the hardware of teaching and learning, I think no members will be against it. But on the provisioning scheme, there is not enough information in the papers, and I hope that there will be further information in the PWSC. It occupies an area of 2,000 square meters and it is 7-story high. So what about the gross construction area? We need to divide the gross floor area in order to calculate whether the cost is reasonable. On the construction period, it said that it would take 4 years to complete the construction period. The UST will propose an 8-story building, 6,000 odd square meters, and it will only take 3 years. So what is so special about this special school that it will take 4 years? According to my experience, for such a simple project, it may only take 2.5 years to 3 years. Is it possible for us to expedite the construction period? What kind of difficulty have you run into? Do you have to preserve any part of the project?
Under Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for your support for the project. With regard to information available from the paper, when we submit a paper to PWSC, we will include information such as the GFA of the school and also the tender prices and also the outcome of tender vetting. Further information will be provided to members. When it comes to the project time for this item, the current site has got a 50-year-old Wan Chai school building. We have to pull it down first. During the demolition and construction stages, we will ensure that the environmental impacts are kept to a minimum. We have another item very soon on Hong Kong UST. They have already got a site available for the construction of the building. So this is the major difference between the two projects. If we discount the demolition time, the project time is more or less the same as similar projects. Mr. Lam Chan Sing, thank you. According to the paper, the number of places can be increased to 180 after reprovisioning. Is that sufficient to meet the demand for school places? Because this is the only school designed for children with mild intellectual disabilities on Hong Kong Island. I am quite worried about the distribution of school places. In places like Sha Tin and Sham Shui Po, you have more such schools, but not on Hong Kong Island. Of course, students can attend school in another district, but it's not really very desirable given that parents will have to spend more time looking after their children. I like to know whether of course you say that they can attend other schools, but I don't know whether the range of learning difficulties will be wider. Mr. Chen Chunying is concerned that you're going to take 4 years to complete the project. Compared with schools also designed for children with mild intellectual disabilities, there was one in Sham Shui Po in near Oi Estate. In 2015, we're told that the school can be completed in 2018, and the school size was even bigger. It was 4,000 odd square meters. This time, the footprint is only 2,000 square meters, and you take 4 years to complete the project. I hope you can expedite the works so that students can benefit from a better learning environment earlier. Under Secretary, on the distribution of school places, there are 7 special school districts. Morning Hill will be in Wan Chai. The catchment area will cover Wan Chai, Happy Valley, Tai Hang, Causeway Bay. It would also cover Quarry Bay and North Point. We have basic school nets. We have also got an extended school district for special schools. For students living in districts outside those I just mentioned, they can also apply for a school place here. And in the Southern District and also the Eastern District, we have also got schools for children with mild and moderate intellectual disability, respectively. Are we concerned about the wide range of learning needs of students in a school? You need not worry, because teachers and parents, teachers and principals are experienced. If they admit students with both, if they admit both mild and moderate intellectual children with mild and moderate intellectual disability. Now, for the latter, they have boarding as well. Teachers experienced in providing education and counseling for students. Now, this site is smaller in area. If we put in place a taller building, that would complicate the works, because this school will have more floors than the ordinary counterpart with only 3 to 4 stories. That means we need to consider other factors. I'm a layman here, but I can discuss with our technical people to give more explanation. If we can compress the timetable, we will for sure do it. For instance, a parent with a child in S3 told us whether his child can attend school in this new premises. So we will, of course, try to expedite the works. Mr. Lin and Kwok. Now, as mentioned, there is only one special school here on Hong Kong Island. That is not sufficient. I thank the Undersecretary for telling us that special schools are designed differently from schools for other children. Looking at the schedule of facilities, well, you are still using the matchbox type school premises. You are using the same SOA schedule of accommodation. I have urged the Bureau a number of times when you will review the SOA for special schools. You just said that mainstream schools and special schools are different. Will you have a special SOA for special schools and give us a briefing afterwards? Now, students in special schools also take DSE courses. So you have to provide facilities for these ordinary subjects. We are concerned about the career prospect of graduates from special schools. Even the country is working on this. Students with mild intellectual disability can be valuable human resources for us, and even the mainland is already working on this. I've been discussing with principals of special schools. Home economic rooms and D&T rooms, are they really useful? And also one resource room. We used to call it an RT room, a special classroom. I think we all know the history of having an RT room. I think we have to review whether a RT room is really needed. Can you tell us when you can complete a review of the SOA for special schools? And I hope the administration can communicate more with the school itself. Let them not be bound by the SOA. The paper doesn't contain enough information. As always, you only provide detailed information in the PWSC paper. You are going to build many schools in the future. Can you give us clearer information including a breakdown of your costs and also details of the design. Thank you. Under Secretary. The questions just raised by Ms. Lillian Kwok will be asked again in the next agenda item. Insufficient information is an issue. Hopefully, when further papers of this kind will contain sufficient information for us, because we need to consider we approve the project or not. We're not here just to discuss the direction. So you see, our questions have been very focused and targeted. Under Secretary, thank you for your support, Ms. Kwok. The education panel will discuss the project from the perspective of education needs. If members are more concerned about the construction cost, now we have already provided as much information as we have now. As mentioned in para 11, in order to start the project as soon as possible, we have already started the tendering procedures. We have invited tenders in parallel. Now, if members need more details and you need a breakdown of the cost, we will try to provide the information in the PWSC paper. We've already tried to provide as much information as possible. If members want future papers to cover policies for education of students with intellectual disabilities, that can be done. Yes, we note members' wish. When it comes to the SOA of schools, I want to explain to Ms. Kwok that the SOA of special schools is different from that for mainstream schools. For instance, now for this school, for example, we have 3 social workers rooms. In a 12 classroom mainstream school, there won't be 3 social workers rooms. This is the outcome of communication with the school, and based on the needs of special schools, we have worked out the design of the project, and there are other details. For instance, the provision of speech therapy rooms and occupational therapy room, all these are provided to cater to the needs of the school concerned. 2 more members, please be succinct. Mr. Ju Kwok. Thank you, Chair. I support the reprovisioning of the Morning Hill School because right now the facilities are already dated and there is an urgent need for the school to be improved. There are a few more special schools in Hong Kong using the matchbox school premise design. According to a survey, we have 23 matchbox schools. 19 applied for reprovisioning. In the past few years, only 5 got approved, and we've also got a dozen or so village schools where the school premises are substandard with safety concerns as well. Many school premises are already dated. Now for 2023-24, the provision for reprovisioning of schools have been cut by over 34%. So many improvement works from schools have not been approved. This is very disappointing. If we have the opportunity, let's go visit some schools. The Millennium Design buildings or schools are so well designed, but some of the older schools are very different from these schools. For sure, these schools cannot compete with newly developed schools, and this is very unfair in terms of competition for student admission. So will you focus on these old schools and improve their facilities? Thank you.
項目嘅支持。
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand members' concerns for substandard campuses. For campuses that are commissioned in different time periods, their conditions differ. For some older campuses, that is, some over 100 years of history, they still look very good. That is because they have repair and maintenance. And we cannot just take a look at the age of schools. Indeed, for some matchbox campuses, in the design, when there is room for improvement, we have already made the relevant enhancements. We have actually done a lot. I invite Mr. Philip Har to speak on this aspect. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Undersecretary. Let me introduce the figures. Speak into the mic and speak up. Thank you, Mr. Har. For the schools that fall below the existing standard, now close to 900 subsidized schools. There are a total of 900 or so, but then only 200 or so meet the existing requirements, as the Undersecretary said. Against the background, they were built to the best standard. Fire safety regulations are all complied with. There are no issues at all. Members can rest assured. Matchbox premises need to be dealt with. We have already reached a consensus. So for the 20-odd matchbox premises, for those that cannot be reprovisioned, we have already reached a consensus. We have identified 5 issues. Well, Principal Assistant Secretary, excuse me, we today focus on special schools, and I suggest discussing matchbox campuses in another meeting. We still have the 3rd agenda item coming up. We need to start the discussion of the 3rd item as soon as possible. On the repair and maintenance of special schools, we definitely support it. But for the major direction, I hope that you will have a consensus with the government. Whether the school needs to be reprovisioned, repaired, we need more information. Not all members on the public on education are members on the PWSC. There were previous cases where the proposal was not approved because of lack of information. So it is not the case that we will definitely support it if it is a special school. If your data do not satisfy us, we will not support it. We may not necessarily support it. For members of the panel on education, if they are also members of the PWSC, they may not have to belabor their points. They may even agree. We will keep the relevant record. For special schools, indeed, in Sham Shui Po district, there are actually more special schools. But recently, I have been in touch with SEN parents. Well, I mean the parents of SEN students. They are scattered throughout different areas, such as Hong Kong Island, Kowloon, etc. I'm no expert, and I cannot say anything about the increase in the number of SEN students. But as the chairperson of the panel on education, I had never expected that there was a surge in the number of SEN students. So, is it worthwhile for the Education Bureau to rethink? Some schools need to be closed. Some schools need to be combined. That is the necessary result because of a structural decline. Can schools be converted? Can they be transformed? If they are subject to building height restrictions, will it be faster if you are going to do so than looking for yet another place in the city center? This is my suggestion, which is the same as what I have proposed. How to make better use of the schools that will be closed. In the population transformation, how can we handle the surge in SEN students? Can we expedite the construction of these special schools? Just a brief response, Undersecretary. Thank you, Madam Chair. As a brief response, we will continue to monitor the supply and demand. There are different categories of special schools. We will monitor the supply and demand. We can see that there is a decline in the number of students in some special schools. There are different types of special schools. To help teachers to transform, we have heard that for some teachers in special schools, they will switch to teach in mainstream schools, as there are more resources dedicated to mainstream schools to take care of students with SEN. For example, coordination officer. If need be, it is also possible for mainstream school teachers to return to special school teachers to take up teaching duties. Most importantly, we will provide training. How many teachers switch from special schools to mainstream schools? Undersecretary, I understand. In the interest of time, you can explore this issue at a later stage. Because of time, I do not allow a second round. Speaker off mic. I believe not only one member, but a couple of members would like to have some documents or information on this issue, including Mr. Chen Chen-Ying. If you're going to send the data to the PWSC, please also send us a copy to respond to members' questions. For the decline in the student population of special schools, we also want to have these relevant information. These are also relevant figures. We also need to have a general understanding. Please provide us with more information. Ms. Lillian Kwok, what else? I'd like to add something on the design of this school. For vocational training and DSE, there is no such information in the information papers. Can you also supplement this information in the written reply? Thank you. We are going to move on to the next agenda item, and I will extend the meeting by 15 minutes.
Mr. 都係啊，施俊輝副局長嚇，請施俊輝副局長留任。
Mr. Jeff C., Undersecretary, please stay behind. We now invite the UST representatives to join us. Members who would like to ask questions, please press a button as soon as possible. I will draw a line after I have an idea of how many members would like to speak. Right now, 5 members. 5 minutes question and answer. I now invite Undersecretary to walk us through the information papers. Thank you, Madam Chair. The government and the Hong Kong UST is now proposing the construction of new research building too. The Hong Kong UST would like to support the development of synthetic biology and make contributions to innovation and technology of Hong Kong, as well as supporting the initiative to develop Hong Kong into an international innovation and technology hub under the National 14th Five-Year Plan. The HKUST would like to build a new research building to 8018EL. The new building will provide laboratories and research facilities, offices, as well as other support space, involving some 6,060 square meters. According to money of the day prices, the cost is some $835 million. We hope to have support from members so that we can submit the proposal to the PWSC and the Finance Committee. The Hong Kong UST is planning to kickstart the project this year. I now invite the Hong Kong UST to walk you through the basic details of the project, and then we are happy to answer questions from members. There is a PowerPoint slide prepared by the Hong Kong UST in accordance with Rules of Procedures 83A. If members have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest to the topic being discussed, please declare the nature of the relevant interest before you speak. Good morning. I'm a senior manager of the Campus Development Office of the Hong Kong UST. I'm Mr. Raymond Ho. This project will take place on the southern part of the campus, on an elevated campus. As you can see, the area labeled in pink is on the elevated area of the campus. The aerial photograph shows a yellow area. It is flanked by 2 buildings, one of which is Lee Shao Key Business Building. In the vicinity is boarding space for students. We want it to be a landmark of synthetic biology for life science research. We also want to take it forward. We want to build a DNA foundry, which is a platform, so that we can be a pioneer in this connection. On the research into genomes, we want to apply synthetic biology to different fields. Using innovation and technologies, we can make breakthroughs, and we hope to identify solutions that are groundbreaking in order to integrate into the GBA development and dovetail with the National 14th Five-Year Plan. We want to make contributions to the country. On facilities, for 6,060 square meters in net operational floor area, 80% of the space will be dedicated to laboratories and research facilities. There are mRNA laboratories about the application of biology, as well as biochemistry, microbiology, and other system or systematic biology.
We're going to use robotics and AI for genetic engineering so as to develop new research areas. Apart from individual laboratories, we have open laboratories to facilitate sharing of experience and information among scientists. We've also got functional areas to allow students, academics, and also visitors to interact. We will have about among the 6,000 odd square meters, there will be 8 stories. That is the maximum height allowed in the OZP. As I mentioned, there will be laboratories, offices, and support space. The project estimate is about $838.1 million. We hope to start construction in the third quarter of this year for completion within 2026. We will have about 80% of the floor area for laboratories and research facilities. The rest will be offices and support space. Before tendering, we'll show you a breakdown of our estimated costs, and they made before tenders were received. Conceptual plans in the southern part of the campus, because of the topography, we can have a pedestrian access facing Aomei Hoi, and there will be an exhibition area for interaction and sharing of outcome of R&D for visits from primary and secondary school students. Facing west, we have a EMV and also exits for logistic facilities, and further on we have an open car park. For the green areas, they are plant rooms in the main, and 1 story up we have the main entrance to the building facing Aomei Hoi. The area in blue are our laboratories and research facilities, green areas, offices, and support space. Further stories have similar floor plans. We have laboratory and research facilities all the way to floor 6, where we have the main plant and the roof. We have photovoltaic panels on the roof for higher energy efficiency. As mentioned, we're now consulting the education panel. We hope to submit a paper to PWSC in June and then to FC. We hope to start works in the third quarter of this year for completion by mid-2026. Thank you. Thank you. I open the floor to members. Each will have 3 minutes. And if you have a direct or indirect pecuniary interest, do remember to make a declaration. First, Mr. Rock Chen. Thank you. Let me declare interest. I'm on the board of the Hong Kong EST. I have 3 questions. The first is, this is a new research building mainly for synthetic biology and biotechnology. With such a good facility, how can we utilize it to attract R&D personnel from overseas and the mainland, so that they can come to Hong Kong to cooperate with our HKUS team? As mentioned, the 14th five-year national plan has positioned Hong Kong as an international innovation and technology hub. Now, there may be things which the country finds it difficult to do, but Hong Kong can be a place for that. And what about division of labor with our Nanshan campus? Would there be any synergy or collaboration or division of labor between our Hong Kong campus and Nansha campus? As we all know, our basic research capability is very strong, but we are relatively weak in commercialization of R&D products. The first slide said that we want to promote R&D commercialization. This is an excellent point. I'd like to know your plans on transforming R&D outcome to products. Undersecretary. Thank you. I will respond to the 3 questions by Mr. Chang, and let's see if HKUST has anything to add. On attracting world-class R&D talents to Hong Kong, we attach a lot of importance to that. As the CE said in his policy address last year, we have launched a series of measures to draw for talents, and we won't wait until this building is complete. For instance, we'll relax the condition of stay for overseas and local and mainland graduates in Hong Kong, and within the administration, we have an office for attracting outstanding talents. And of course, the president of HKUST, Dr. Yip, is also an expert in biotechnology. So we are quite confident that the university can be very competitive in drawing for talents. We understand that for the campus at Clearwater Bay and also Nansha campus, there is a lot of synergy in the use of resources, and there is also the flow of research personnel and resources. For some programs, we understand the Nansha campus provides programs that are not available in our Hong Kong campus. There is synergy. Yes, we would rather hear directly from HKUST because they have a whole team with us today. So when it comes to development of UST, I hope the management of UST responsible for this project can answer our questions directly. I am Pong Ting Chu, Vice President for Administration and Business of HKUST. I thank Mr. Rukshan for his questions. The first is on how we attract international talents to the university. We will try to complement the government's policies as far as possible. This new research building is designed for synthetic biology, which is an advanced research area incorporating molecular biology, biotechnology, physics, engineering, and computer science using different disciplines for genetic engineering to come up with outcome that can contribute to society. Because we're talking about a very advanced area of research, we must have state-of-the-art facilities for cutting-edge research, and this will go a long way in attracting talents to us. We have just launched a recruitment program for our 30th anniversary. One of the areas is in biotechnology. We have strategic manpower recruitment strategies. Hopefully, we can attract top-notch talents to Hong Kong from around the world. When it comes to our Nansha campus. Just last September, Hong Kong UST's Nansha campus in Guangzhou formally opened. We have a principle of complementing one another in the academic aspect. We have cross-disciplinary program design. In terms of research, we have interdisciplinary research areas that includes synthetic biology. The research facilities of both campuses can be shared. And of course, the new research building is mainly for synthetic biology, and there are facilities available in Nansha. However, the Nansha campus and the Clearwater Bay campus are separate incorporations, and they are financially autonomous. Lastly, commercialization of R&D products. We have done a lot in Hong Kong. The university has spent no effort in supporting INT development in Hong Kong. We want to build a vibrant ecosystem so that for midstream and upstream R&D, we will play the role of a bridge. We provide upstream R&D activities and capacity. Hopefully, we can expedite the commercialization of R&D outcome. The university has done a lot in supporting startups. So far, we have already supported 1,600 startups, including 9 unicorns and 11 successful companies that are now listed. We have created over $400 billion of financial benefits. Hopefully, the new research building will bring the university to a new level. Thank you very much, Professor Pong. I have to extend the meeting by another 15 minutes, but we must end by 12:15. As I said, I will allow as much time as the administration and the university need in the first question. Now, for the remaining members, you can only have 3 minutes each. You can choose to express your views or allow more time for our guests to respond. I will give more time to the UST as far as possible. Ms. Lillian Kwok, I fully support this project. The new research building will be used for synthetic biology research, and it can accommodate 300 users. I'd like to know research teams that can use the new building. Will existing teams move into the new building? And I'd like to know whether they are using space available in the campus currently. Apart from synthetic biology, in Clearwater Bay, Zhangguan you are going to have an Inno Park also for development of biotechnology. I'd like to know the division of labor between the two places. And we have also got this agreement with the mainland to expedite the establishment of an INT center in Hong Kong. And one of the initiatives is to deepen our cooperation in IND. And there are 16 state key laboratories and research institutes in Hong Kong distributed in our universities. They have very high quality research teams. Will we consider making or apply to become one of a state key laboratory in Hong Kong? Thank you.
個提問啦。
Thank you, Madam Chair. Professor Pong, on who will use the facilities. This building will be able to accommodate 300 teaching staff members and students. The students will also engage in synthetic biology research. It is a cross-disciplinary research area. It will involve 1,800 odd students from either the science stream or the engineering stream. For undergraduates, there is an undergraduate research scheme. Every year, 600 students will take part in this scheme. Working with teachers and researchers, they will work on research in this regard. So we expect over 1,000 students every year benefiting from this building. I'm Mr. Ernest Chan, Associate Vice President of the Hong Kong UST. I'm responsible for planning and coordination. Ms. Lilian Kwok asked about our collaboration with mainland, as well as shaping Hong Kong into an international innovation and technology center. This is a very important focus of the university. And this new research building will provide us with facilities so that there will be collaborations and cooperation opportunities with different mainland units, different mainland laboratories, etc. We also hope to foster these collaboration for state-of-the-art expansion of laboratories. That is also a prerequisite when we discuss opportunities of cooperation with mainland units. Mr. Lam Chen Sing, and then I will draw a line. I will only allow these few members to ask questions. Mr. Lam Chen Sing. Thank you, Madam Chair. On innovation and technology, the government attaches great importance to trawling for enterprises. The government wants to attract 100 INT enterprises with potential. Some of them are even leading enterprises. The research capabilities or collaborative capabilities of the Hong Kong UST are also some major concerns. That is whether the leading enterprises will come to Hong Kong. These are very important concerns. With the new research building, how can you support the government in trawling for talents? That is my first question. The government has another KPI. In the coming 5 years, in UGC-funded universities, 35% of the quota will be related to STEAM subjects. That is to say, in the future, there will be more students. For researchers and research students, in theory, there will also be an increase. Will the design of this new research building consider the long-term measures of the government to dovetail with the KPI of the government? In the coming 5 years or even a decade, will it be enough to accommodate researchers and students? 2 questions. Thank you. On transformation of INT, collaboration with the trade is very important. The Hong Kong UST has close collaboration with different companies, including the bank sector, the MTRCL, and Huawei. We already have laboratories to combine our research results and the experience of the trade, including AI, big data, as well as synthetic biology. The Hong Kong UST will also continue to foster more collaboration with the trade. Every 2 months, we hold a trade exchange day. We call it an industrial day to see in which area is the trade interested. From 2000 to 2022, in a natural science journal, for the impact of academic patent, the Hong Kong UST ranks the first in China and the 31st around the world. So how we can commercialize the patent into some results? New research building will stand us in good stead. For STEM education, there will be activities for secondary and primary school students. In this new research building, we will have open laboratories. We will invite secondary school teachers and students to come to join us so that we will be able to pique their interest in STEM education. Next, Mr. Chu Kwok Kung, when you're ready. New research building will be a platform for DNA Foundry. There are limitations when it comes to entering the mainland market. It is difficult for us to bring software and data into the mainland market. So, against this background, what will you do? Rumor has it that Hong Kong UST will build a faculty of medicine. Will this new research building for the proposed or rumored faculty of medicine? Thank you, Mr. Zhu. On the exchange of samples for the campus in Nansha, we also have similar laboratories. Our teams on both sides work together on research. We have taken different opportunities to work with the country on research. As we have a campus in Nansha, we also have measures allowing us to send the research results to the other laboratory in the field of synthetic biology. And the member mentioned Faculty of Medicine. I will defer to my colleague. Overall, the long-term development strategy of the Hong Kong UST in health science dated back a long time ago. They are our focuses. For the aging population, well, the member's question is whether you have the plan of a future faculty of medicine, and if yes, will the soon to be created faculty share the same new research building? When we have a concrete plan, we will definitely give an account to the Legislative Council. But on sharing resources, That is our policy of the university. We have been advocating sharing of the facilities. I also support your proposal, and I pin high hopes on this proposal. I always remember an alumnus, Wan Chai. He became the first one, a pioneer in the commercialization of unmanned aerial aircraft. You mentioned 9 unicorns. Over 1,000 enterprises have been commercialized. These are very good news. And I hope that this will not only benefit the 1,000 students and 300 teaching staff members, but I hope that you will also benefit Hong Kong as a whole, so that you can also support talents as well as research and the commercialization of larger projects in Hong Kong. That is my first point. On my second point, I hope that you can supplement information and please provide us with more detailed information. On greening, you have been faring well. But we also want to see breakdown. When the funding is to the tune of $8 billion, we want a more detailed breakdown. When other universities come to the Legislative Council, their cost may even be higher. So we want to draw a comparison. You can complete the project in 3 years. Then the figure was used as reference when we were discussing the previous topic. When you can finish it within 3 years, then it will serve as a reference. When we approve your project, we also need information about similar projects, not just the UST, but I hope that your university can provide us with more information. When the panel on education considers approving the application, we need to think from the perspective of education, and we will also draw comparisons. Therefore, we want more detailed information from you, so that when a project goes to PWSC, before that we will have the relevant information. Now, I need to officially ask members whether you support or endorse this project to be discussed in PWSC. So all of us agree? Yes. If all of us support you, we hope that you will be able to lead by example. So I now call it a day. That is the end of the meeting today. Thank you, officials, and thank you, USC representatives. Meeting adjourned.